everybody! Hi. This video is going to be about the ketogenic diet, which is the diet that I follow. I've been having some questions recently and some suggested questions today. Thank you very much to everybody who has, to do with keto and what it involves, how it's changed my life, it has, and any sort of myths, facts to do with the ketogenic diet. For all of you who don't know what the ketogenic diet is, it's a high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet. So you've got your paleo, which is low carb. This is very low carb. So much so that your body doesn't use dietary carbohydrate as a fuel, and it creates ketones and uses fat for fuel. So what it is a style of eating which we have evolved with before agriculture started. Obviously we ate a high fat, naturally, quite a low carb diet, and you're gonna go, okay, she's talking about fad diet here. It's not. There's a lot of research into it, a lot of studies which I can link below, and a lot of things that people just don't know about, and they have just gone along with whatever they've been told about nutrition. So I firstly want to talk about the types of foods that I eat, and what happens when you go into the state of ketosis. So I'll firstly talk about that state. So you've got this transition period where you go from what your body knows as your fuel, and always has been, of being quite maybe moderate to high carbohydrate. It needs to change its fuel source. So it goes through a transition period, which can be quite hellish for some people. It certainly was for me. I was nauseous for at least 2 weeks, and I just slept most of the time when I wasn't at work. I'd say that exercise for some people through the transition period is a no-no, but you know, it depends all on you, because everybody's different. So the first 2 to 3 weeks aren't great, and the best thing to do in that situation, rather than taper your carbohydrate down, I'd suggest completely just cutting it out and focusing on the end result, which will be, I don't really need or crave carbohydrates anymore, junk food, chocolate, that sort of thing, because, well, for most people, that's what happens once they've got through the transition period. Once you're in there, you then essentially become a fat burner rather than a sugar burner. And it takes a while for people to become keto adapted, which is when you've been in that state for quite a while and your body prefers that state. So yeah, in terms of research, I'll link anything below. If you've got a Kindle, then I suggest you buy the books that I have linked or described below, and just, even if you don't want to try it, just open your mind a little bit. The ketogenic diet has been prescribed to epileptic children, epileptic people. It's been known to starve cancers, and there are stories of people who haven't seen that cancer again. Alzheimer's, and people say to me, you know, you're gonna clog your arteries and all this stuff, and there's no actual scientific fact behind a high fat diet causing heart disease. And there's actually it's more so now causing a lot of illnesses in the world. You know, insulin resistance, and I can see that firsthand in my father, who's now got type 2 diabetes and still eats bread daily because the doctors say that low fat is the way to go. So yeah, I look at the stuff below. It's really important that if you are going to say anything about it, and you do have any, you know, issues you want to bring up, and you know, you might be thinking one thing, then just have a look at the research. It's really interesting. And if you come to see me and say it's you know, it's the worst diet since, I don't know, I would say sliced bread, but that would be quite funny. Why would it be prescribed to epileptic children? Wouldn't that be considered child abuse? Surely. You know, it's just a case of opening your eyes and finding out that there isn't a one size fits all, which I always talk about on my blog. It is a personal, you need to look for personalising your own lifestyle and your own nutrition to get the results that you want, and just, you know, listen to your body, be in tune with your body, and make little changes wherever you can to make yourself feel better. And that's the main thing. It's about how you feel and not about how anybody else tells you to do things. So yeah, check all that stuff out. Why I started keto is the next topic that I'm going to talk about. As some of you know, I was really ill due to a tooth infection for many months, and my energy had gone from insanity every single day to feeling like I'd run a marathon just getting dressed. So it was bad, and after having my tooth removed, I did feel better. Not immediately, but keto has helped me to become the person that I used to be before that illness. And I started it thanks to many people on the Tumblr network, Christabel, who I'll link below, Butterbell, and Jasmine, I was going to say then. Absolutely amazing people who have shared their experiences with us and given us the opportunity to think about something different, and you know, and help us learn about that. And I can't thank you two enough. You're both amazing. So my transition period that I was talking about before, you know, if you're a newbie and you decided you want to do keto, that period can be quite difficult, and that usually determines whether you're gonna succeed with it or not. It's all about mind over matter, which we always talk about. Just rationalising cravings in your head, and I often say, don't count calories within those first 2 weeks. Eat what you want, obviously within your macros. That's the most important part, and then maybe look at your caloric intake depending on your goals and that sort of thing. So I talked about getting into ketosis. It's about lowering your carbohydrate level far enough for your body to start creating ketones and burning those and using those for energy and using fat. The simplest way to talk about why it's efficient to do that is, I basically say, as some of you or most of you might know, when you eat dietary carbohydrate, your insulin levels go up, depending on obviously how much you eat. When that happens, insulin is the fat inhibiting hormone, so it's going to stop the fat from coming out and being used as energy. It's going to use, first of all, it's going to use your glycogen stores, and if you constantly, some people, like my boyfriend, can eat as many carbohydrates as they want, and he can be as thin as a rake, but some people can't do that. It's all about your tolerance to carbohydrates. So I'm not saying that this is bad for everybody, but for some people it's not as good, you know, and the next person is genetically different and it'll affect them differently. So if you are struggling with losing fat, feeling good on a diet that's high carbohydrate, you know, this might be something that you might want to think about, or maybe just lowering your carbohydrate intake. So when you cut your insulin levels, or you keep your insulin levels down, you've got more chance of burning fat. Okay, essentially that's the biggest thing. And I'm going to sit here and go, obviously this is the best diet, you're going to burn so much fat. Keto is about so much more than this. It's about it's a lifestyle. You've got to be committed to it completely, because, you know, one piece of cake might knock you out of ketosis. And then you've got to not start all over again, because it takes a couple of days depending on how adapted you are and all that sort of thing. But it's a commitment, and it's a tool to make yourself feel better. And it's just, obviously, again, it depends on you. So, initially, this is what everybody talks about. Low carb diets, you lose all your muscle because you've got no other fuel. Fat is, if just the same, if not a better source of fuel than carbohydrates. And I've seen it described like this before, and I thought it was excellent. Think about fat as a long log. When you burn it, it's going to take a long time to burn, rather than a few tiny small sticks that's just going to go poof which is the description of carbohydrate. And it is efficient to do that, but initially water, yeah, you'll lose water initially. So when you drop on the scale, that will be water, and you'll feel it. You'll feel different. Like, I've just had Chinese, so my face is puffy, but my hands are all, my eyes are swollen, so it's not a nice sight. You'll lose all your water. Not all your water, obviously, but you retained water because your kidneys don't want to hold on to sodium anymore. So the higher carbohydrate intake, the more chance that you're going to retain water. And again, it depends on you, but as a whole, that is generally what happens. So when you cut your carbohydrate intake down, you'll lose water because your kidneys don't want to hold on to sodium anymore. So it's essential to keep hydrated when you first start, and add salt to your food. More sodium, especially if you feel fatigued or dizzy. It is recommended to drink broth. So if you cook or boil your chicken in a crock pot, or I don't personally, but it is recommended to do that. And if I was to drink the broth, it's just because I don't really make that type of food. That's the only thing. But yeah, more sodium the better. Potassium as well is important when you're in ketosis. So and multivitamins. So those generally, the things I take are, some people actually ask me these questions quite often: magnesium, potassium, now these are what I try to take, omega-3 capsules, and multivitamins. They're what I take personally, and probiotic actually as well. I always forget. I'm sure everybody else does too. So yeah, a lot of water. You gotta drink like a fish, guys. I'll link my beginner's guide to keto at the bottom of this video if you want to have a look at that. It's got a little bit of information. It's got a few sources at the end as well, which is going to be similar to what I'll link to the bottom of this video. But that can give you an idea of where to start, and it'll probably just recap exactly what I told you in this video. So this question, I've got questions. This comes from Rachel. Hi Rachel. This is Hot Happy Health, and she would like to know whether I have lost weight on keto. Here's my before and after of when I began lifting 3 months ago. Now I start keto. I'll do a keto before and after here. And when I started lifting, which is when the scales stopped. See that? Yeah. I can see a difference there, and I can't see there's no difference on the scales. In fact, it goes up. But I am not, by any means, I look completely different. I look leaner, I look stronger, I am stronger. And you know, it's not all about the scales, and I always say this to people, and as much as it frustrates me, it is important to remember that it is not the be all and end all, because you know, it takes on board everything in your body, and you haven't put on a pound overnight, you haven't lost a pound in an hour, you know. It's water, it's everything, so you got to think about that as well. There's a lot more things that you can look at and take measurements and record than the scales, because they are probably the most inaccurate tool to use anyway, unless it's over a long period of time and quite a big weight loss. So technically, I believe I've lost fat, I've gained muscle, and what goes on in between I have no idea, but I look better and I feel better. The main thing is about being in ketosis is that it protects muscle. So what you've heard about the fact that you waste muscle and use muscle, if providing that you're eating enough fat, you don't. And you can see from that picture, and you know from the fact that in 3 months I've gone from a 25 kilogram squat to a 55 kilogram squat. I've increased on my bench by 10. I'm a little noob on my arms, I admit it. And I've been doing my deadlift all wrong, which is really embarrassing, so we won't talk about my deadlift. I've been doing like a squat lift, which I mentioned earlier, which is, I honestly put myself in the most dangerous position. But I've watched a few videos yesterday and today, to do with proper form. One is by Joey, who I will put below. He's got really good videos on form, and he's a really sweet guy, so I'll link him. Is keto easy? I'd say at first no, but with anything, as soon as you get into it and you get used to it, like I've always grown up with carbohydrate on my plate, whether it's mashed potatoes, rice, pasta, whatever, it's always been a side, and it's difficult to go from that to not having that there. So it's not easy at first, but nothing's easy at first. The beginning's always the hardest with anything, and we all know that. But it does get easier. Now it's like a lifestyle to me, and I don't think about it. It's difficult in terms of what is available to eat. I mean, thank God there's a butcher's in the town where I work, or else there'd be nothing available for me to have, because everything's sandwiches and everything's carbohydrate based, pastas, salads, got all sorts of stuff in. So in terms of keeping that down, your carbohydrate intake down, it can be difficult, because when you do walk into a supermarket, they're everywhere, so you've just got to be really careful. But it gets easier. A typical day of food. Okay, I'll link you to my keto page. I'm linking you to everything, which will give you an idea of exactly what I eat. I take photos of it. I take photos of my food all the time. A typical day, I have 2 meals a day, unless I have breakfast at work, which would be bacon and eggs, because again, that's all that's really available. But I have lunch anywhere from 1 PM. Got really itchy nose. Anywhere from 1 PM to 4 PM, depending on how busy I am, how hungry I am. The best thing about keto is the fact that you're just so satiated and you're not bothered. You feel full. So I eat my post-workout is my dinner, and that can be whatever time I finish working out, essentially. Snacks are obviously in between those times, but you can eat more meals. But the fact of the matter is that when you're eating more fat, you're eating more calories. So if you're going to split it up over the day, your meals are going to have to be smaller than my meals would be when I'm doing 2, because I'll have a pudding and all that sort of thing, strawberries and cream. So yeah, that typically broccoli, cheese, some sort of meat, post-workout, a keto salad with pine nuts, again, strawberries and cream. Dark chocolate is an absolute dream on keto. It's difficult for me to say really, because now you put me on the spot. I think about food all the time, but when you ask me what I eat, I'm like, what? So yeah, just check out my keto tab, because it's got everything on it. Next question. No one's asked me this, but I get asked it quite a lot. Is it expensive? Technically, is it expensive? I like to spend a lot of money on food, because I am pretty much a food monster, and I don't mind spending whatever it takes on eating good food, because I enjoy keto so much and I enjoy food so much. I would say it's not that expensive, because you're getting more calories per pence, so it's just about probably timing when you go shopping for food, and keeping it fresh enough, because I find that I throw a lot of things out that I don't eat. Cheese lasts a while anyway, and like I say, nuts, like a handful of nuts is so many calories and so much fat, is so much goodness, and just if you're adding butter to everything, then you know, it's all good, man. It's all good. A message from Anonymous: is keto good for insulin resistance? Yes. A lot of insulin resistance is caused by a high carb diet. If you combine that with someone who has a low tolerance to carbohydrate, they can, you know, become resistant to insulin. my dad has type 2 diabetes and he's insulin resistant, and the doctors tell him to keep eating carbohydrates, which is making him sicker. And if they just turned around and told him what I tell him every day, he'd probably listen. So yeah, it can help. And there's a lot of information in The Art and Science of a Low Carbohydrate Living by Phinney and Jeff Volek. So if you check that out, I've linked it underneath. If you want to check it out, it's available on the Kindle and it is excellent. It's quite a heavy-ish read, depending on whether you like light books or not. Also, it is good for type 2 diabetics, definitely. It's put many people with it in remission. So it needs to be considered, because it's an excellent way to control it. I also know diabetics that do Maria. I also know diabetics that do keto, and this is not to get confused with ketoacidosis, which I will link below. I'm not even going to go into it because the amount of shit that'll cause. It's just completely different. Two completely different. Nutritional ketosis and ketoacidosis is completely different. So, in fact, when I first said that I was going to do keto, Mum was a nurse and she said, "You can't do that, it's dangerous." And because she thought that I was talking about ketoacidosis. Next question is from Melissa. Hello. She is asking about social events and keto. And food is more than just food. I absolutely agree with you. It is a celebration in all senses. You don't eat someone's food, that's offensive. So everything's just, it's around food all the time. We are surrounded by it. And people now, to be fair, I eat a lot of it, but we're surrounded by it. So I know exactly how you feel. Best thing to do is just not go out. Like me. Just like stay at home and play with bunnies and lift them. No, I'm kidding. You can't just not go out. But I know exactly how you feel. As in with the comments that people give you about, "Oh, why are you eating so much fat?" And I've had comments from waitresses about me not wanting mashed potato, and I say to them, I don't want to be tempted because I can't be bothered to explain the fact that I'm on the ketogenic diet. And then they'll make some comment about getting tempted by mashed potato, and I'm like, you just not bring me mashed potato like I asked for. It's just irritating, and I know exactly how you feel. And people asking questions are generally just interested about it, so just tell them. But I know how you feel. It can be difficult, because people just, and it's not, I understand why, because I was the same. The best thing to do is just remember that it's your body. In the same way that you wear certain clothes, feel comfortable, food should be the same thing. You should feel comfortable around the food that you're eating, be happy whilst you're eating it, not feel like you're forcing something down that's going to cause an issue for you. In the same way that someone says, "I don't want to eat that because I get an upset stomach," best thing to do is just, it's your body. Yeah, and I know of instances where people have made me feel really bad for not eating whatever, and it's not right that people do that, you know? I don't comment on the clothes that they're wearing, so why they comment on the food that I'm eating? It's my body, I'm putting it in my body, and it's my choice what I eat. Obviously it's a different thing if you're like, "Good, that looks disgusting, I'm not eating that," and you're like, "Well, that's rude." This is different. This is a genuine, it looks gorgeous, I really want that, but I would feel better by not, and can I have this? So if people are your friends and you're socialising with these people, they'll understand you completely. All of mine do. All my 2 friends. They do. They understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. Probably because it's all over my blog all the time, but you know what I'm saying. So I do know what you mean. I also just want to go over really quickly that I am doing a 10k run for cancer research if you could sponsor me, I'm going to put my fundraising page below. If it's just £1, that would be absolutely amazing. I'm doing it in remembrance of my grandparents, who unfortunately passed away to cancer, and they were shining stars in my life. So if only they could see what I've achieved now, and if you want to check it out and maybe put in a donation, I'd be super happy. This is my first 10k race, and if you could do that for me, I would be so happy. So thank you so much for listening to me talk about the worst diet in the world. Please read the links that I've posted below. If you want any more information, feel free to jump onto my blog, send me a message. Even if you don't have Tumblr, you can send me a message, and I would be happy to cover it in my next vlog. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope that everybody's having a great day. Keep on loving yourself, and good night.